Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock. I am with Barth Calderon. We're an asset protection, estate planning, business planning firm located here in Orange County. And I'm here on Wealth Protector TV, where we have guests giving us high alerts on things we should know about. Alexandra Alvarado, who's the Director of Marketing and Education for the American Apartment Owners Association. Alexandra, thanks for jumping back on.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, this is great. You have a huge national association for rental property owners, and you guys do so much great education. And you and I were talking offline about this hot one you have now dealing with background checks, landlords, and court case. What do we need to know?
Yes, I'm calling it the $1 million screening mistake.
Ooh,
And yes, $1 million. A Los Angeles landlord has been sued by over 100 tenants this year. And essentially, that landlord charged their, regular screening fee, which is totally within the legal limit.
yep,
They conducted the background check and they rented to the tenants. So you think, okay, well, then what are they suing him for? Right?
yeah.
Turns out that the background checks were conducted without proper disclosures. And the
Oh,
applicants were not given a form or anywhere on the application that disclosed the scope of the investigation, who the screening company would be, and their right to request a copy of their report.
quick
So,
question. The background screening
yeah.
is legal. That part's legal. Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, in California, and there's a couple other places, there have been additional laws concerning how and when to run a criminal background check. So
Okay.
that is starting to get more regulated. In most areas, though, it's still a non-issue. You can run a criminal background check, and eviction search is very common, as well as the credit. Some additional identity verification might be in there as well. That's what we recommend.
Yeah.
We also provide screening for our AAOA members. And so we say, to be more thorough is always better. If you can run the report, you should. Obviously, if the rental property is located in Oakland, California, or one of those places where criminal is highly restricted, then when we provide those screening results, we block the results with a message saying they're like, sorry, like we can't show you these results in your jurisdiction.
Oh,
But for the
yeah.
most part, they should be able to, no issue.
Interesting. And so, 100 people sued. Was that a class action?
Yeah. So essentially, they took the landlord to court. The key ruling here really is that the tenants don't need to actually prove harm, which is wild. So even though, as I
Yeah.
mentioned, that they got the rental, they still are able to sue just because they weren't informed of the rights to their background check and the details of it. And so that one step is really here the issue times 100 because you have 100 tenants that you rented to now.
Yeah. And it's not like anything was going wrong with the tenant landlord relationship. It just obviously,
No.
you've seen this. There's these aggressive attorneys, plaintiff attorneys that look for this stuff. Is that
Oh, yeah.
probably what's going on here? Yeah.
I'm sure it is. I mean, the other issue that I saw come up just today in our newsletter, we posted a BizNow article about how even though insurance is going down for landlords, and that might be a victory on paper, what is not going down is liability insurance. So now, even though
Oh,
it looks like insurance is cheaper, liability insurance isn't included in that. And if they want liability insurance, it's through the roof. And it's because there have been just an exponential number of lawsuits. And a lot of it has to do with these plaintiff attorneys that are really targeting landlords. And when an insurance policy gets used, even if it's not used by you, it will affect your rates. And so it's causing a gap now in insurance. So this landlord, I don't know if they had liability insurance or not, but let's say they didn't, like they're on the hook for this. Then that's
Yeah.
huge. And then those landlords who can't afford to have liability insurance and they get sued for something that's so small like this, a small technical error, then how are they going to weather the storm, right?
Yeah, yeah, this is such an interesting topic because obviously as an asset protection firm dealing, with landlords and guarding them against these very type of cases, it's, we see that where they don't have proper asset protection, this, and all of a sudden it becomes a personal liability, $1 million. And, you know, uh, yeah, this is a really good example. Um, because these plaintiffs attorneys, Alexander, will like get 100 people to sign it and say, I'll give you, $1,000 to write your name down here, sues for 1 million, and the attorney's like getting the lion's share of the money. I mean, it's crazy. So what's the best practice there? Like for landlords, what would you say they need to do to guard against this specific issue? How does that play out for them?
Yeah, I mean, it is reading up on the Fair Credit Reporting Act. It's
Yeah,
very dry material, but
yeah.
certainly everything is in there that's according to how to do proper screening. And that's just one aspect that you can get sued for, right? But screening is definitely a part of the leasing process that often gets targeted. So going through and looking at the Fair Credit Reporting Act, really understanding it. And then in California, they decided the Fair Credit Reporting Act had shortcomings and that
Mhm.
it really was extremely difficult, in California's opinion, for victims to get damages suffered from, credit denial or um, in this case, a rental denial. And so California also has the ICRAA. So the ICRAA is really an additional layer of compliance that
Oh,
landlords need to look at in California that really was meant to be punitive, more so than the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So, especially in California, it is a lot easier for tenants to sue for these types of credit reporting, violations.
it's amazing. Yeah, in a lawsuit like that, if it goes to the owner, no, no asset protection, no LLC around the property, then that could personal liability could attack, bank accounts, where they live, other properties, that the person owns. So that's like your example just can be cancerous to an owner. We see that all the time. Interesting. And then I want to ask you a question. So, because you mentioned in Oakland there was the
Mhm.
criminal background check. So certain jurisdictions have their own set of laws where you can't do certain background checks?
Yeah, so there are a few, not a lot of them, but certainly where they are, you need to be very careful and be
Oh.
aware of those local laws. So some of them are like Oakland, you can't run back criminal pretty much at
Yeah,
all. Right. Sex offender, they make some exception for that. And so that's one example.
right.
Another example might be places like in um, Washington, Seattle, Colorado. There's certain areas where, like in Denver, I believe, where you can't run the criminal background check at the same time as the eviction and credit. And
Oh,
so you have to run eviction and credit first, then provide a conditional offer to the tenant. And then if that passes, then you can do criminal so that the criminal doesn't influence their their opinion, I
right,
suppose, and
right.
that they're more likely to give a second chance to the tenant who may have a criminal record. This is something that came about through the employment screening world, which, believe it or not, is even more restrictive than the tenant screening world. And so from that came, you know, okay, employers are doing this now. They're in a lot of places now doing ban to box is what it's called, or not asking for criminal until a conditional offer of employment is given. So they kind of stole that from the employment world
Uh,
to use on
yeah,
screening, and it is a trend. I mean, I've seen many jurisdictions, not many, but multiple over the last several years that have, either passed it or attempted to.
yeah,
And it's not going away. So the laws are becoming stricter, which means that liability insurance is more important
right.
because of that. However, it's also more expensive. And so,
Yeah,
whether or not it's a good fit for you, I definitely recommend shopping your insurance. We have on our website, under our solutions tab, an insurance page where you can get a quote, and our brokers that specialize in multifamily that we partner with can help you shop for that. And hopefully they can give you the pros and cons and you're able to afford it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Either you
yep,
can afford it or not. In some cases, you can't. So you just have to be extra diligent.
yeah. No, this is great stuff. And you do have a lot of great resources over there at AAOA. What's the best way for people to tap into your organization?
Yeah, AAOA.com. So that stands for American Apartment Owners Association. You can go there and join our association for free. That'll get you in the loop with the newsletter, our magazine, which is coming out actually tomorrow. We're very excited about that. A
Nice.
quarterly digital magazine. So you'll get that for free, and you'll get invited to our webinars, which I know, Paul, you're a frequent guest speaker with Harry and Barth, and so
Yeah,
it is actually a really great tool if you are in the loop, and at least, if you can't stay on top of everything, that's our job. We're really trying to do that on behalf of our members. And so that is obviously one service that we offer, but we also have tenant screening that is compliant, as I mentioned. So we try not to get you in trouble. We try to keep you out of trouble. And so if you need any sort of resource, we have so many of them, as you said, that
yeah, it's awesome.
really use one or use them all, but most of them are free, so it doesn't hurt to join.
Yeah, highly recommended. I know the organization well, AAOA.com. Alexandra, thank you. Always good alerts. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.